Millions of Americans book a Caribbean vacation every year chasing the same postcard: turquoise water, white sand, paradise. And on a handful of these islands, one bad afternoon can hand you a bill big enough to wipe out your savings. Not a robbery, a medical emergency, on an island where the nearest hospital that can save you is a $200,000 flight away. Here is the part that travel brochures leave out. When you are young, picking a Caribbean island is about the beaches and the price. Later in life, two other questions matter just as much, and nobody asks them at the travel agency. First, if you have a heart attack or a stroke down there, can the local hospital actually save you, or do they have to fly you out? And second, can you physically get around, or is the whole island steep hills and no sidewalks? Because here is the number that should stop you cold. A medical evacuation off the wrong Caribbean island, a fixed-wing air ambulance back to Miami, runs between $75,000 and $200,000. Medicare does not cover a dime of it once you leave the country. Most travel insurance caps out long before that bill does. So the island you pick is not just about the vacation, it is about whether you come home to your life or come home to a debt. So today I am counting down the 7 Caribbean islands that make the least sense once you are past 60, ranked by how much risk they carry, starting with the most serious. And for every single one, I will give you a better island to go instead, somewhere safer and usually cheaper that hands you the same trip without the danger. Stay to the end, because the last part clears the names of 3 islands that sound terrifying but are actually perfectly fine, and writing them off would be a real mistake. Let's begin. Number 1. Haiti. This one is not a close call, and I want to be completely clear about it. Haiti is under a Level 4 Do Not Travel advisory from the U.S. State Department, the highest warning they issue, the same category as an active war zone. As of 2026, armed gangs control most of the capital, Port-au-Prince. The homicide rate is 68 per 100,000 people, among the worst on Earth. Kidnapping foreigners for ransom is an organized business, and it often targets people leaving the main airport. The hospitals cannot reliably keep the lights on, let alone handle a cardiac emergency. And the U.S. government states plainly that if something happens to you there, it may not be able to help you. For a traveler of any age, this is a hard no, and for a senior, it is doubly so. There is no version of this trip that is worth the risk. Go instead, Puerto Rico. If what draws you to Haiti is Caribbean history, colonial streets, and rich culture, Puerto Rico gives you all of it, and it is one of the safest choices you can make. Here is the part that matters most for older travelers. Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. Your Medicare works there, fully, the same as it does at home. That one fact erases the 6-figure medevac nightmare entirely. You do not even need a passport. Old San Juan lets cruise ships dock right at the pier, no tendering, and there are over 100 nonstop flights a day from cities like Miami, New York, and Houston. Same Caribbean soul, none of the danger, and your health coverage comes with you. If the most dangerous island was an easy call, the next one is trickier because its reputation is finally improving, and that is exactly what makes it risky. Number 2. Jamaica. Jamaica is a genuinely hard case because the news out of the island is actually getting better. The homicide rate dropped to a 31-year low by early 2026, and that is real progress worth acknowledging. So why is it on this list? Because of where the remaining crime happens. Jamaica sits at a Level 2 advisory, but several parishes are flagged Level 3 and Level 4, off limits even to U.S. government staff. And the warning that matters most for you is this one. The U.S. Embassy specifically notes that armed robberies and sexual assaults have been reported inside the luxury all-inclusive resorts, not in some distant neighborhood, inside the gates where you would be staying. On top of that, medical care outside the capital is thin. There are documented shortages of basic medications, including insulin, which is a serious problem if you manage a chronic condition. And the vendors at the cruise ports and beaches are known for being aggressive, which makes for a high-stress day when you just want to relax. So where do you go instead? The Dominican Republic. And I know, the Dominican Republic has its own scary headlines. But hold on, because the actual data is going to surprise you, and I will come back to those headlines at the end of this video. Here are the real numbers. In 2026, the Dominican Republic had the lowest homicide rate in the entire Caribbean, around 7 per 100,000, lower than a lot of major American cities. The country runs a dedicated tourist police force called Politur that keeps the resort zones of Punta Cana and La Romana genuinely secure. You get the same all-inclusive beach vacation, better protected, at the best value in the region, and with modern hospitals near the resorts. It is the safer, cheaper version of what people go to Jamaica for. Number 3. Trinidad and Tobago. This one is not about reputation. It is about a crisis happening right now. Trinidad and Tobago is under a Level 3 advisory, reconsider travel, and in March of 2026, the government declared a nationwide state of emergency to deal with organized crime. That is not a formality. It suspended bail and put military checkpoints across the country. The homicide rate is around 45 per 100,000, one of the highest in the Caribbean. And here is the detail that sets Trinidad apart from everywhere else on this list. The State Department attaches a terrorism warning to it, cautioning that public places, markets, and transit hubs could be targeted. When a country is running military checkpoints and the State Department is warning about public gatherings, that is not a vacation environment for anyone, and certainly not for an older traveler who wants calm and predictability. The safer swap here is Barbados. Barbados is everything the Southern Caribbean does well without the instability. It carries the safest possible Level 1 advisory, and medically, it is one of the strongest islands in the region. The main hospital has run a cardiac catheterization lab since the 1990s, and there are dialysis clinics with modern equipment that take visiting patients. English is the native language. The island is flat and easy to walk, and there are direct flights from Miami, New York, and Charlotte. You get the warm, relaxed Southern Caribbean feel with a Level 1 safety rating and a hospital that can actually treat a heart attack. Now we get to the one that shocks people the most, because the danger here is not just crime. Number 4. Turks and Caicos. Everyone knows Turks and Caicos for those unbelievable turquoise beaches. But there are two problems here, and the second one is the kind of thing you would never see coming. First, the island had a serious spike in gang-related violence, with a per capita homicide rate that jumped alarmingly in recent years. But here is the part that stunned American travelers. Turks and Caicos has a zero-tolerance firearms law, and it treats ammunition the same as a gun. In 2024, at least 5 American tourists, including retirees and parents on vacation, were arrested, had their passports confiscated, and were held on the island for weeks, some facing a possible 12-year prison sentence, all for accidentally having a few stray hunting bullets left in a bag from back home. After pressure from U.S. lawmakers, the territory softened the mandatory sentence, and in the end, those travelers paid heavy fines rather than serving years. But the arrests were real, the detentions were real, and the State Department still warns that if you bring so much as a single bullet, intentional or not, they cannot get you out. On top of that legal landmine, it is one of the most overpriced destinations in the entire Caribbean. Go instead, Aruba. Aruba gives you the exact same postcard beaches and turquoise water as Turks and Caicos, but at a fairer price and under a safe Level 1 advisory. It sits outside the hurricane belt, so the weather is dependable year-round, which matters when you are booking months ahead. The island is famously flat and walkable. It has a genuinely modern hospital with a full emergency room and dialysis for visitors, and there are over 100 non-stop flights from the U.S. every week. Same beaches, no legal minefield, and a hospital you can count on. Number 5. St. Lucia. St. Lucia sells you a honeymoon and hands you a mountain you cannot walk down. For years, it was the romantic postcard of the Caribbean, so this one surprises people. But in July of 2026, the State Department downgraded it to a Level 2 advisory, specifically because of a rise in violent crime aimed at tourists, including break-ins and armed robberies at resorts. And then there is the land itself. St. Lucia is stunning precisely because it is so mountainous, but that same terrain is a real problem for an older traveler. The roads are steep, narrow, and winding, with blind corners and no sidewalks, which means you are dependent on expensive guided transport to go anywhere. And medically, the main private hospital does not have an MRI machine, which is a serious gap if you need a stroke diagnosed quickly, where every minute counts. Go here instead, Curaçao. Curaçao gives you that colorful, culture-rich Caribbean experience with none of the physical hurdles. The capital, Willemstad, is flat, walkable, and looks like a little slice of Europe. And cruise ships dock right alongside, so there is no tendering. It is very safe at level 1, and it is a tremendous value, with mid-range days running well under $200. Like Aruba, it sits outside the hurricane belt, and it has solid Dutch standard medical care to stabilize you if anything goes wrong. All the charm, none of the mountains. Number 6. The Bahamas, and specifically Nassau. The Bahamas is the closest paradise to the U.S. mainland, and Nassau is where most of that paradise quietly goes wrong. This one needs a little precision, because the Bahamas is a big place. The quiet out islands are lovely, but the vast majority of travelers land in Nassau, and Nassau is the problem. It carries a level 2 advisory, with gang violence concentrated in a neighborhood that sits just south of the main tourist strip, closer than most visitors realize. But the warning that should stop an older traveler cold is about the water. The U.S. Embassy has issued specific alerts about the jet ski operators on the popular Nassau beaches, tied to a documented pattern of both sexual assaults and serious accidents in an industry that is essentially unregulated. Add a cruise port that is congested, chaotic, and packed with aggressive sellers, and you have an exhausting, stressful day rather than a relaxing one. The swap I would make is the Cayman Islands. The Cayman Islands sit at a level 1 advisory and rank among the safest places anywhere in the world. The streets are clean, flat, and safe to walk day or night, built to high British standards. And here is the reason it is a standout for seniors. Grand Cayman is home to Health City, an internationally accredited hospital that specializes in advanced heart surgery. If you are going to have a cardiac emergency anywhere in the Caribbean, this is where you would want to be. There are direct flights from Houston, Miami, and Atlanta. The one trade-off is that cruise ships tender there rather than dock. But for that level of safety and medical care, it is a trade-off worth making. Number 7. Dominica. I am ending with this one on purpose because it breaks the pattern, and it is important. Let me be fair to Dominica right away. It is not dangerous. Crime is low, and it holds a level 1 advisory. So why is it on a list of islands seniors should avoid? Because safety is not only about crime, and for an older traveler, Dominica is a logistical hazard. They call it the nature island, and it earns the name. The terrain is fiercely rugged, all steep drop-offs and dense rainforest, with poorly maintained roads and almost no sidewalks anywhere. Ambulance response times are slow, which is a real concern if you have a medical event. And there are very few direct flights from the U.S., so getting there usually means exhausting layovers on small regional planes. Dominica is a wonderful island, but it is built for young, active eco-tourists hiking volcanoes, not for retirees who want comfort and easy access. Go here instead, Bonaire. Bonaire trades Dominica's exhausting mountains for flat, easy terrain that is simple to get around. It is blissfully quiet, it sits outside the hurricane belt, and it has direct flights from Atlanta, Houston, Newark, and New York, so you skip the multi-leg ordeal. And for a place its size, the medical picture is reassuring. Bonaire has a hyperbaric chamber, which matters if you are an active senior who snorkels or dives. You get the laid-back nature and water experience of Dominica, without the physical punishment of getting around. Now, before you go, I promised I would come back to this, because it is just as important as the warnings. Some Caribbean islands have a frightening reputation that the actual data does not support, and it would be a real shame to cross a wonderful destination off your list for no good reason. Start with the Dominican Republic, which I sent you to earlier. You have probably seen the scary headlines about crime and tainted resort drinks. The numbers flatly contradict them. In 2026, the Dominican Republic had the lowest homicide rate in the entire Caribbean, lower than many big American cities, and the resort corridors are actively protected by that tourist police force. The reputation is years out of date. Then there is Grenada. In 2024, there was a genuinely tragic and highly publicized incident involving an American couple, and it pushed the island to a level 2 advisory. But that one terrible event masks the bigger truth. Grenada is historically one of the safest nations in the Americas, often recording fewer than 15 homicides in an entire year. For a normal traveler, it remains overwhelmingly safe and welcoming. And finally, the idea that all of Jamaica is a war zone. That is simply not accurate. Jamaica's violence is heavily concentrated in specific non-tourist neighborhoods, and a visitor at a resort in Negril or Ocho Rios lives in a completely different reality from the headline statistics. The caution about Jamaica is real, as I said, but the sweeping idea that setting foot on the island guarantees danger is a serious exaggeration. So here is where that leaves you. The beauty of a Caribbean island tells you almost nothing about whether it is a smart choice after 60. The questions that actually matter are quieter. Can the hospital save you? Can you get around without exhausting yourself? Is the crime near where you will actually be? Ask those 3 questions before you book anything, and lean toward the islands that answer them well, the Puerto Ricos and Barbadoses and Arubas and Caymans, where your safety and your health are genuinely looked after. Do that, and you get the vacation you were dreaming of, instead of the emergency you never planned for. If this helped you plan a safer trip, subscribe, because this is exactly what this channel does. We look past the postcards and check what actually matters for travelers over 55. So tell me in the comments, which Caribbean island is your favorite, and did it make my list or dodge it? I would love to hear it. Until next time.